Hi, this is Alex with Maple Leaf Coffee Roasters. I'm here to talk about the March 2024 Club Coffee, a great natural process coffee from Panama. Check it out. So just as a reminder for everyone, the Coffee Club is a program that we do here at Maple Leaf Roasters where we bring in a members-only coffee every month, roasted a couple different ways, send out a whole bunch of notes and information about the coffee to our members, give them the choice of one of the three different types of coffees, and if there's extra bags available, we offer those at a discount as well. So every once in a while with the club, we do a little bit of an experiment of some sort. For example, last year I brought in the same coffee to be roasted 3 different months in a row, but one version was a natural process, one version was a wash process, and one version was a honey process coffee of the same version of the same coffee. So what I like to do with the club sometimes is expose people to something a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole of the coffee world instead of just bringing in another random coffee and roasting it and talking about it. Sometimes I like to take people a little bit further down into the depths of the scenes and things behind the coffee world. And this month and next month, we're actually doing something interesting. We have the same coffee for two different months, the natural process coffee from Panama, except one is a Typica variety and one is a Catui variety. And these two varieties are pretty stark contrast to one another. What you may not know about coffee is that there are many different strains and varietals out there. Sometimes when you are having a coffee from an artisan roaster such as ourselves, you'll get a coffee that is all one strain, or you might get something that's an aggregate, a mix of a couple different strains. And there are reasons why a farmer would grow different strains. Sometimes it's a choice of what they have available to them that will grow in their climate. Sometimes it's looking to do something specific with taste. Sometimes it's just the trees and the things that have survived on their part of the world. So one of the interesting things about these different strains is that the Typica variety is something that has been in existence since pretty much the birth of coffee. So it's one of the oldest strains out there that you can find. And the Catui variety is a mix between a couple of different varietals that have become more popular. The Typica variety is usually grown in a little bit of a smaller quantity. It's a little bit harder to grow. It takes a bit more work and effort for a farmer to maintain, but usually produces sort of a mellower, easier to drink, also easier to roast in some respects, cup of coffee. The Catui varieties are usually a little bit hardier, a little bit easier to grow, but can be a little bit rougher in flavors. They're actually an offshoot of a Robusta variety, but they are an Arabica bean, which is a specialty coffee bean nonetheless. And this month we're doing the Typica variety first. So I want to give people a feel for what they might expect from a Typica variety out of this, and then ease them into the Catui variety to see kind of how those changes and differences are present in the different varietals of coffee. We've had coffees from Panama before, both on a regular shelf and in our club program. Panamanian coffees are generally easy to drink, very mellow, easy on the stomach, kind of more in the brown sugar, somewhat similar to the taste that you see out of an El Salvador coffee. So I always like when we get a Panamanian coffee, it's not a super common thing for us. It just doesn't show up on some of the lists all that often. And this is one that has a lot of the conventional Panamanian flavors. And I think next month's different varietal version of the same thing will give people a really easy point of comparison to see how those two different varietals contrast with one another. So we did our normal light, medium, and dark here. And in order to keep things as consistent as possible from this month to next month, I'm going to roast these pretty much the exact same way. I'm not going to play any tricks on the way that was roasted. And one of the things I'm going to recommend for folks is to try to stay away from the dark roast varieties on both of these months. And the reason is something that's important to understand about coffee roasting. One thing that you always hear a lot of times about coffee roasting is the lighter you roast the coffee, the more you taste the coffee itself. The darker you roast the coffee, the more you taste how it was roasted. And in order for folks to get the true measure of how these two varieties really compare, what I'm going to encourage people to do is choose either the light or the medium so that they can taste more of the coffee itself rather than the dark, where you will taste more of the way that I personally have roasted this coffee for both months. So you get your normal conventional flavors out of these three coffees that you get of Panamanians. They're all overall very mellow, easy to drink, not sharp or acidic by any means. But there is, of course, a difference between all three. So on the light roast side of things, this is where you get this more sweet, juicy, rich, with a little bit of an earthy, kind of vegetal sort of feel to it. There's a kind of a little bit of a graham cracker, brown sugar sort of hint to it. But because of that light roast quality to this, it's just not going to be a little bit like more raw tasting in some respects. So not quite like eating, a bag of peas or something of that nature, but you're going to get a little bit of a veggie, green pepper sort of feel to this coffee on the light roast side. along with a little bit of like a floral, citrusy sort of flavor. I think if anyone normally goes for a Guatemalan or a super light roast African coffee, an Ethiopian of some sort, you'll feel right at home with this coffee. It's not going to be sharp or tart like some of those African coffees will be, but you'll get that kind of richness of flavor and a very easy to drink mellow cup overall. The medium roast is where we move more into the chocolatey sphere of things on this. So this is where those kind of brown sugary, almost malty flavors start to edge their way in a little bit. That's kind of a conventional Panamanian flavor. There's a little bit of like a nuttiness to this as well. Not a super strong nutty like some of the Papua New Guinea coffees that we've had before, but the nuttiness is definitely there. It's in the background, and it'll kind of have this juicy, syrupy finish that will be very easy and pleasant on the stomach. Very round flavor overall, even taste, nice complexity to it that isn't unapproachable either. I like the medium roast a little bit more than either the light or the dark this month. Not a super strong chocolatey coffee, but if you're someone that's looking for a mix of cocoa and nutty flavors, the medium roast will be really easy to drink as well. On the dark side of things, this is when we turn more into that roast kind of flavor territory, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm not going to encourage people to try this one. If you really, really want to try the dark roast this month, just for whatever reason, I definitely encourage you to reconsider first. But then if you want to go there, the dark roast, you get some of those light to medium flavors. You get that nutty, malty kind of texture that you got more out of the medium roast. But you get the heavier feel, the richer mouth taste, something that has kind of like a still bit of a chocolate to it, but it turns more into the white chocolate sort of territory. This is a big coffee, but not heavy, which is a really weird contrast to feel when you're drinking a dark roast. So something that has a rich finish to it, but it's not going to weigh on your stomach. It's not going to weigh you down. You're not going to be tasting this for super long after you swallow it. So the finish on it is interesting. It's not going to be super heavy like some Indonesian or Africa or Asia Pacific dark roast can be, but you're definitely going to get that malty texture to this that will linger for a little bit longer than you might if it were a dark roast of, say, an African coffee. So of all these three, like I said, light and medium are the way to go this month. And the other thing I would encourage is if you get the light one month, get the light next month as well, get the medium, so on and so forth, same idea. So I'm really excited for people to try the Typica version of this coffee this month, and we'll see everyone for the same coffee with the Catawai variety next month. See you soon.